Let's start the week of the modeling with statistics class. From this week, we will shift our focus from data management techniques to survey management. In the coming weeks, we will learn how to develop the survey to meet your goals. This is the first week of the exercises. We have two goals for today. I want you to understand the importance of making right questions. It seems easy, but actually it is not. Finding the right questions or making a right question is very challenging, and we will learn how to do it. The second, I want you to understand how to connect the data with your goal. Sometimes there are some gaps between the data you show and the goal you set up. So I want you to make sure the consistency between the data you use and goal you set. This is a general survey process. In this class, we will follow these steps from 1 through 5. The first step, step 1, is define your final goal. The question you should ask yourself is, what do you want to achieve through this survey? Before making any questionnaires or questions, you have to set up your goal precisely. For example, here is an example. I want to know where is the best place to start my bento lunch shop at a campus. In step 2, in order to achieve your goal, in order to know the answer of what you want to know or what you want to achieve, you need to clarify what information is necessary to support your goal. The question you should ask yourself is, what do you need to know? For example, let's take the same example. There are 3 sample questions. Which faculty students would likely buy your bento box? This is all about the distance from the faculty buildings. Second, how many minutes would they accept to come to the shop? That's all about the time or acceptable distance or time. Finally, how important is the location of the shop? It's about priority of place. There are some factors to make a decision to buy a lunchbox, bento box, and what is the priority of the place? This is a fundamental question. You can come up with other types of question, but these are some samples. And then once you clarify the information to support the goal, then in step 3, you have to you have to identify the data or index to show the result. I want you to recall the 4 approaches which we learned in the previous weeks: value and trend, distribution of variance, and ratio. I want you to pick up the right index, and sometimes you need to combine some of them, but I want you to try to apply some of them. And the next step, step 4, now it's time to create your questions. The question you need to ask yourself is, what do you need to ask? The answers to this question would be the right question. So don't jump to step 4 until you complete step 1 through 3. And then finally, once you collect the data or the answers, then you summarize and evaluate the result. and I want you to make sure they directly support your conclusion. They have to be directly linked to each other. This is a fundamental step. So make sure you take all the steps before you make a question or questions. Let's look at some types of questions. There are a bunch of types of the questions you can apply for your survey. The first one is called open question. For open question, you do not have to propose some sample answers. Rather, respondents can answer freely. For example, what do you want to eat for lunch? So answer might be hamburgers or noodle sandwiches or curry rice, whatever. But you can never expect what answers you will receive. So sometimes it goes very time-consuming process afterwards. The next one is multiple choice. Sometimes answer is one single answer or multiple answers. For multiple choice question, in advance you have to prepare and propose some sample answers. For example, the answer 1 is hamburger. Answer 2, sandwiches. Answer 3, curry rice. Answer 4 is something. And then you have to specify in advance. The respondent can choose only one single answer or multiple answers. The next type of question is yes/no question. This is rather simple. You ask some question and then the respondent can answer yes or no. So, do you want to eat hamburger for lunch? Yes or no? That's it. This is the easiest question for the respondent. And the last one, the conditional questions. This is a part of the next one, structural or sequential questions. You do not have to focus on the one single question, but if something, then goes to the next question. For example, if you are in a basketball team, then what do you like to have for lunch? This is weird, but if you are not in a basketball team, what do you something? This is all conditional question. So if something, then ask this question. If something, then ask this question. Okay, let me change my question. The sample question. If you had dinner last night, what would you like to have for breakfast? And if you didn't have dinner last night, what would you like to have for breakfast? So sometimes the answer will not be the same depending on the condition. So in such case, you have to make a structure, conditional statement question, then following questions. The last one, structural or sequential question. In this case, you can make a structure of the questions. So the people's answer depends on the conditions. For example, the first one, which do you like, A, B, or C, or something like that. If the answer is A, then the next question. And if the answer is B, then blah 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 blah. If C, blah 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 blah. Yes, you can add more questions if you have some other options. And the last one is really easy. Do you like A? Then the question is something. If yes, the question is something. If no, the question is something. So this is the kind of conditional questions, or you can say structural or sequential questions. So you can choose any types of question, but they have to fit your goal. So, and think about the time the respondents need to take. So you can prepare the concise and simple questions if you have the many questions. But if you have just one or two or three, a couple of questions, yes, you can choose any type of the question from the list. Okay, think about the time the respondents need to consume to answer the questions and how many questions you will ask. These are something you should consider when you develop the survey. Let's talk about consistency check. Once you make a question or questions, I want you to make sure you have the consistency between the things you want to know and the question you made. Okay, let's review some questions. Okay, let's take the example A. In this case, what you would like to know is how do people decide to buy A? And the question is, would you buy A if the price is lower than 500 yen? Is it a right question? If no, what's wrong with it? And how would you rephrase the question? Take some time and think about it. In this case, you can say the assumption this guy made is very narrow because this person assumed that the people's decision making depends on the price, or the price is the most important factor to make a decision to buy. But this is not true. This is just your assumption. So the people may have other factors to make a decision to buy A other than the price. And also you assume the threshold to make a decision is 500, which you never know. So don't make a narrow assumption. Don't put your assumptions too much when you make a question. There is a logic jump between the right-hand side and the left-hand side. Let's look at another example, B. Which product to focus? And then the question is, would you like to buy A or B? What's wrong with it? Again, this is a very narrow assumption. This guy assumed that the people will buy either A or B. But there is other option not to buy A or B or something others. But this assumption is all about people will definitely buy A or B. But this is not all the option that you can take. So this is an issue too. So how would you fix them? That's the next question. Okay. Here's some examples to fix this problem. For the example A, you can ask a direct question, something like this. What or which is your main factor to decide to buy A or something? Because you never know what is the main factor which is may be the price or may not be the price. Before asking this question, you never know. So why not asking a direct question, and then you can ask other questions based on the result of this answer, which is conditional, which is the sequential question. How about B? Because you never know the respondent will buy it or not. So you can make a conditional question, something like this. If you decide to buy, which would you choose, A or B? If this is conditional, it makes sense, because you ask if you decided to buy. Okay, so please rephrase to fill the gap, logic gap between the question and your goal. Okay, let's look at other questions. Example C. What is the main factor for foreigners to keep staying in Japan? The question to achieve this goal is, what are you satisfied with your life in Japan? What is an issue about the question? And how would you fix an issue in the question? The issue is that your goal on the left-hand side and the question on the right-hand side are not directly linked, because the foreigners, they might have other reasons than satisfaction. But you assume that they are staying in Japan because they are satisfied with their lives in Japan. But you never know what is the truth. So, before knowing the fact, you should not remove all other possibilities from your question. So there is a huge logic jam between the two. How about the next one? How can I increase the sales of cafeteria? This is the goal, or what you want to know. And then question is, what do you buy the most at the cafeteria? Or what is your favorite menu, or something like that? What is an issue? And how would you rephrase the question to meet the goal? It's the narrow audience issue. I mean, how about asking the people who do not go to the cafeteria? You are asking this question to the people who bought something at the cafeteria. But that makes some bias, because you are asking only limited scope of the people. But what if you ask some question to the people who do not buy, who never bought something from the cafeteria? They might have negative reasons not to go or not to buy anything at the cafeteria. That may be the helpful, useful information for you. So do not limit the scope of the respondents. So that's all related to the quality of the answers. Sometimes it causes a big bias. So please be aware of the bias you are making for yourself. What is the right answer example? For example C, you can ask a direct question, something like this. What is the main factor to keep you staying in Japan? Why not you ask directly these questions? Or you can propose some multiple choices. How about D? You can ask conditional question. For existing customers, what makes you go to the cafeteria? For the potential customers who never gone to the cafeteria, you can ask those questions. What is your main reason not to go to the cafeteria? Or what do you need to start using the cafeteria or going to the cafeteria. Yes, and in such case, conditional question may work. Now it's the exercise. I want you to take some time to fill in the blank boxes. In step 2, this is the survey process. As we saw in the previous slide, there are three example questions in step 2, A, B, C. And from these questions, what could you say from the result? You can assume those stuff. Once you get the answers to these questions, you can say something like this in red. Based on this information, I want you to fill in the blank for step 3 and step 4 for each of A, B, and C. I want you to identify data or index to show the result. That's about step C. And what statement, what questions are you going to create to get a right answer in step 4? I want you to take some time and think about the answers for step 3 and 4. Once you finish all the exercise in the previous slide, this is an assignment for the next week. I want you to create minimum 3 questions to achieve the following goal. The goal is, I would like to know how undergraduate students decide classes to take in the semester. There might be a bunch of reasons or factors to decide the classes to take. And I want you to ask questions and summarize the result. But the goal of this assignment is not conducting a survey itself. The goal is making right questions, at least 3. You do not have to submit your result. Bring it to the next class. Good luck.